Everybody loves to talk about privilege, like someone who was born with a good life and good parents and a good house and a good neighborhood, and they make a bunch of money and they don't have any real problems. And according to the most victim minded people, they're white and they're men and they're straight and all of that other shit. And they have privileged upbringings because they've never experienced anything difficult, or they have privileged upbringings because they got whatever it was that they wanted. Their first car was a new car, and they had cell phones, and they're privileged because their parents paid for them to go to college or gave them a position at their family or a family friend's company. Some shit along those lines. That is everyone's favorite thing, at least every victim's favorite thing. And first and foremost, that is a very, very entitled stance to take, because a very large part of it is that you, in some capacity, deserve more and were shortchanged that, or you should have had these things, but you weren't given them. And then, secondly, it is also a very haterish stance to take, because people always say this to try and limit the accomplishments of others and diminish what it is that people are doing. Oh, of course this person had money. Look at their parents. Or this person probably was given all that they have, where they inherited it, or they inherited their company, or they have family friends, or some shit to discredit what it is that someone else has done by calling it privilege, to make up for the fact or make themselves feel better about the fact that they aren't where it is that they would want to be. They don't want to build themselves up, so they tear others down. But both of those two things are separate from the overall point that I am making here. The point that I am making about privilege is most people define it incredibly stupid. What is privilege is not having a good life. What is privilege is not being handed and or given a bunch of things. None of these things are people being privileged. These are people being disadvantaged. I know that typically people think it goes in the opposite direction, that the disadvantaged people are the ones who grew up in broken homes, or the ones who grew up broke or without any family money or contacts, or who are some sort of minority and whatever other victim minded shit people like to talk about. But it is actually the exact opposite. The people who have the easiest life are the ones who are disadvantaged. The people who grew up with everything are the ones who are disadvantaged. The people who had everything handed to them are disadvantaged. The people who have money because they inherited and were given money but never had to do anything to work for it or earn it or make themselves into anyone of value to warrant them having the amount of money that they have are the ones who are disadvantaged. Because these people are the ones who were shortchanged the ability to make themselves into someone worthwhile. Despite what poor people think, having money doesn't mean anything. Earning money means something, or having earned a bunch of money means something, not just being rich. Lottery winners are rich, but nobody gives a fuck about lottery winners, because it's not just about the fact that they have money, it's how it is that they went about acquiring this money. The money is a side effect of becoming the person that you are supposed to become. That's what's interesting. That's what's praiseworthy. That's what's valuable. That's what the real accomplishment is. And people who were born given money are shortchanged the ability to make themselves into that. They are shortchanged all of the personal development steps to go through to reach their full potential, and they are shortchanged the juxtaposition that they would have had from being poor to then becoming rich. They don't appreciate their money as much because they don't know what it's like to go without money. And things only exist in any realm on a scale or as a comparison and a contrast. You can only be happy because you are sad. If you were happy all the time, you would never be happy. It can't be a constant. It's a high where a sad is the low. But you need both. You need the peaks in order you need the valleys in order to appreciate the peaks. If everything was a peak, it would just be flat terrain. So they were deprived of this juxtaposition. They were deprived of having to go through any sort of adversity. They were deprived of having to have things to overcome. Because people who've never overcome anything are A, boring as fuck, and B, absolutely not resilient. These are the people that you see crying on TV and social media about a bunch of nonsensical shit that happens. A year or two, a few years ago, I don't know, it was the Prince of England, I believe, was on TV breaking down because he argued with his wife, just like a little bitch. That is someone who has had a privileged life where he was given everything and he has not experienced any adversity. So he became such a pussy that he can't deal with the fact that him and his wife sometimes get into disagreements, and that causes him to break down in tears, again, like a pussy on television. That is what you wind up like when you have a privileged and easy life. That is what your life looks like when you are handed everything. It is the people who are handed everything who fuck around and lose all of their money and go broke and don't know what the fuck to do to get it back because they don't know how to earn it in the first place. It is the people who have been given everything who don't know how to handle things not going their way or any degree of hardship. There are millions of people walking around with money from trust funds and whatnot, and no one gives a shit. That's not who anyone is making movies about. That's not who anyone is reading stories about. That's not who anyone is watching inspirational, whatever the fuck it is, motivational content that you would like to call it from, is somebody who has always had it. Because there is absolutely nothing worse in life than always having it. I know that on paper it seems like it would be amazing to be born into a lovely, wealthy, loving, together fucking family who's going to give you everything and send you to all the best schools and give you all of the things you need and buy you a brand new car on your 15th, 16th birthday and pay for your college that you don't even really need to go to because they're just standardly going to give you a position at their family company where you make a lot of money and they give you a big fucking house and your whole entire life is set up for you and all you really have to worry about is doing the shit that's fun. And that might sound lovely to stupid people who want to be losers and who don't want to actually try. Those are the building blocks to a terrible life and drug addiction. That's why all the super fucking wealthy country club people do a bunch of fucking drugs, because they've never actually been through anything in their life and they're looking desperately to feel something. So they turn to illicit substances and shoot narcotics up their nose because they don't know any other way to get any sort of feeling other than their numb levelness because everything has always been good. They don't understand that the best feeling that you can get comes from accomplishing something that you worked hard for. They don't understand that earning your first $100 or $1,000, whatever, on your own when you were used to being absolutely poor is an amazing feeling. When shit has not been going your way and then you finally figure out a way to get it right, it is a great feeling. Better than any of this other shit that anyone could possibly think of. For the if someone was able to eat literally, truly, whatever it is that they wanted and be in the shape that they wanted without having to work out, that would be terrible. It's what most people would opt for if they had the opportunity. Just give me the stuff, but let me still do whatever the fuck it is that I want and nothing that I don't. Because those people, again, are stupid and entitled. And they just want to be handed things, not understanding that the things that they are being handed is not what it is actually about. What is great about being in shape is that it's something that you have to earn and work hard for, and you develop a bunch of very important and useful and meaningful character traits along your journey to building your biceps and your chest and your abs and all of that other shit. You build yourself into a very specific type of person, and it is the type of person that you build yourself into that is far more meaningful than the physique that you get out of it, because again, it is about earning stuff. So having good genetics is not a blessing. If anything, it is a burden, because you don't have to work as hard as the person with terrible genetics who's always been fat for their whole life and who hates exercise and who hates eating fucking healthy food and has to try super hard to lose any sort of weight. When that person gets in shape, they will be much stronger for it than the person who has good genetics and barely needs to try and can pretty much eat whatever it is that they like. They will get much more out of the journey, which is what it's about. The journey, not the destination. And people are fucking idiots who want to start all the way at the end, not realizing that there is no real joy in being at the end. What matters is getting there, and once you get there, what matters is maintaining it. But if you were just given it, then you will never appreciate it, and you will never truly enjoy it because you've never felt the opposite. All you've ever known is the highs, which makes nothing high. Several years ago, when magazines were still a thing, like 2007, I read an interview with Lil Wayne where he said that he smokes so much weed that when he's not smoking, he feels high because you can't infinitely be high. Eventually, that just becomes your normal set point. It just becomes your standard operating procedure. Like if you were always out of breath, eventually you would never be out of breath. It's just like when people move to fucking the desert and it's really hot for a while, then they live there for a bit. It's like, okay, this is just the temperature now. And then you go somewhere real cold, but because you're used to being in the heat, you're the cold crazy, but then you get used to the cold. You get used to being wherever the fuck it is that you are. And that stimulus is no longer novel, which, as a brief pause, is one of the many reasons that I say depression is not real and is a stupid thing and is a concept that they have created in order to sell you medication. Because if you look at one of the symptoms of depression, it is, do you no longer find joy in the things that you once found enjoyable? That's fucking stupid because that's how everything works. If you do the same thing for long enough, no matter what it is, eventually you will lose interest in it. If your favorite movie is Jaws, I don't give a fuck how much you like Jaws. If you sit down for 10 hours a day for every single day for a month, by the end of it and watch Jaws, by the end of it you are going to be tired of fucking Jaws, because having the same exact exposure to the same thing lessens the enjoyment in it. It's like if you have something that's your favorite food and then you eat it every single day, eventually you're going to become sick of it, because part of what makes things enjoyable is the rareness and the juxtaposition between what it is that you have currently and what it is that you're not having. It's like if you go and you eat clean and properly and track your macros and all of that shit for every single day, then have one cheat meal a week or every other week, you will appreciate that cheat meal so much more than if that's what it is that comprises your entire diet. That is a point about my depression being nonsense thing, and also tying back into the original point that I am making, which is the privileged people are not the people who were born with a good life, who everything is easy for, who everything works out for. Because when everything works out for you, you get used to not having to exert effort. You get used to not having to try. And then when you get to a point where you do have to try, you think that's just as far as you can go. I have had a lot of sales jobs. When I first started doing it, it was very easy for me. I was naturally good at speaking, or not naturally, but I was good at speaking at that point in time. So people liked buying shit from me. I was enjoyable to talk to, whatever the case may be, however it is that you would like to look at it. So I was like, man, I'm amazing at sales. And then when I came to a point where I wasn't continuously doing better, I thought that because it has always come easy to me, that the point that it became hard was as far as I can go, because I was used to not being met with resistance. Then when I did meet resistance, I thought that this is just the stopping point for me, and that shortchanged me from being able to go farther. And that is exactly what people wind up as, or feeling or dealing with, when they're used to things always going their way, is once they stop getting their way, they don't know how to handle it, and they don't understand that they need to pivot. They don't understand that they need to take a different approach, try something new, or level up some sort of skill in some area of life. They just think that, oh, well, this is it for me, this is as far as I can go, because they are so used to everything working out for them. That is not an advantage, that is a disadvantage. It is not an advantage that things always go your way or things always work out for you. It's not to your advantage that you had great genetics. It is not to your advantage that you had two parents who were amazing and loving growing up. Yes, that's ideal. Obviously, I understand. I'm not suggesting that people should have bad childhoods. However, people do seem to miss the point that life is not about childhood. Childhood is about preparation for adulthood. And while, yes, you could have two parents who teach you how to become an adult, you will still not have the same level of grit and tenacity that you will if you had to if you had to figure out your way on your own without that sort of guidance. So people love to bitch about this shit. Well, my childhood wasn't great and I didn't have great parents and my parents were divorced and all kinds of stupid bitch shit. No, these are not problems. These are blessings. If you had two parents who loved each other and got along and gave you all the time and shit that you needed, you would not have had the opportunity that you have to get stronger and learn how to take care of yourself that you do when you have some sort of broken and fucked up home. Again, I'm not saying that people should go and not take care of their kids. I'm talking about people who were born into a situation who want to be negative little whiny bitches about it because they're entitled and they feel that they deserve better. You don't deserve better. You just need to make the most of what it is that you have. And you need to stop looking at other people's situations and saying they are lucky, they are privileged, they are in a better position. No, the fuck they are not. Because at the end of the day, if you both go the exact same distance, it will be more impressive that you did it because you did not have the good start that they had. You don't want a head start. If anything, you want to be farther back. You don't want a leg up. If anything, you want a leg down. I couldn't think of an opposite of the leg up in time, so I just said that. But the point is, it is much more impressive to climb all the way to the top of the mountain when you started below ground level in some sort of hole than it is when you started off in the middle of the mountain. I understand that that makes it easier to get to the top, but that's why it's the less desirable thing as a whole. What matters is your ability to do hard shit. What you will look back on at the end of life is the hard shit that you have overcome. And the excuse me, the more hardship, the more adversity, the more struggle that you have dealt with, the better of a person that you will be. So anyone who is given whatever little building blocks whenever their life is first started, and those building blocks are the opposite of hardship, they are being robbed of the ability to become as strong as someone can possibly be. That's disadvantaged. So the worse that your childhood was, the better that your adulthood should be. The more fucking minority and short and whatever the fuck other things that you would like to assume are holding you back should be that much more reason that your story is that much more epic if you stop bitching about it. The people with the good lives who always had good lives are not privileged, they are disadvantaged. The people who start off in the bad spot are the ones with the privilege because they get to write the better story.